Welcome! I will show you how to destroy the Nimzo-Indian defense in 2024. How? Well, let's go to the Nimzo-Indian setup first, and that's this position, right? Black gets the bishop out already on move 3, very active, and wants to castle next. So the king is already in safety and then can think of how to break in the center. Sure, but white has a very good sideline in this position. You know, queen c2 I think is the main line. But here f3, I would recommend it. And you get into a similar kind of setup as you would have in the King's Indian defense with f3. I have another video on that, so check it out. I would definitely recommend you to use similar systems in different openings so you get good in these kind of positions. Because also here the f3 pawn might support a g4 and h4 break at some point. It supports the e4 pawn and the knight might go to g3 as well, like I showed in the King's Indian defense. After castles, we could take the center right away, but first we ask the opponent questions. What are you going to do? Are you going to take or are you going to drop back? Well, if my opponent drops back, then we play e4 and we have a great center. A great position for me. Theory is to simply take the knight, and after takes back, I do have double pawns over here. Sure, but some point the d5 break will likely come, and then I can trade off the double pawns. And in return, I get a lot of space as well at some point. Here, d5, taking the center right away. And I take the pawn and my opponent takes back. e4 now is not a good move, right? Because after takes, you can simply take it. It's not an option. So you might feel, what is so amazing about this setup then? Well, we play the move e3 instead. Protecting this pawn is defended as well, and making room for the bishop and the knight to develop. And then maybe g4, h4 at some point. There are some options for black in this position. c5 is one of the main options, but then bishop to d3, b6, knight here, and bishop to a6. And yeah, white really tries to trade off the strong white bishop, as the white bishop is very strong. It's eyeing on the h7 pawn. This bishop is already on a good diagonal as well. The e4 pawn will move forward at some point likely. So that's one of the options black has. Another option is to go b6 right away. Bishop to d3. And also in this position, so it's a bit of a different move order, but we end up with a bishop trade anyway. So this is a good plan for black. But still, white tries to push for the e4 pawn break at some point. My opponent went for a different option, and that is rook to e8. Also a good option, pinning the pawn. But now we simply develop. We get this bishop on a great diagonal. And after c5, we need to decide how to develop further. Knight to h3 is not a good move, right? Black will simply take it. And yeah, the queen might come here. The white's king is very vulnerable, and it cannot really castle long as well. So the knight goes here, and that's actually exactly what we want, because we want to have it on g3, supporting an e4 push at some point. c4, not a good move. Black gets rid of the tension. Instead, black should have kept the tension, and at some point maybe knight c6 is an option, attacking this pawn as well, making sure that at some point, if I push the e-pawn, so for example, let's show it. So at some point, let's go here. If I push, not a good moment, but just to show, then this pawn is weak, right? There's more captures good at this point, but just to show that you have pressure along the d file with the knight on c6 at some point. Here, c4 releases all pressure on this pawn because it's protected and you don't have any pressure here anymore. So the e4 break is even easier to do. Knight c6, a good move, a little too late. We castle, and here bishop to e6. Question mark. Not a good move. Why? You will see in a few moves, because this bishop is clearly misplaced and it will be a target of my pawns going forward. So here, e4 would already be the best move. And after takes, I was afraid of bishop to g4 and I didn't see the right continuation, because this pawn is now attacked twice, only defended once, and I have a hard time defending it, and this is not an option because the queen hangs. But h3 would have been a good move, and then after bishop h5, we play bishop to g5, pinning the knight, so this pawn is now only attacked by the rook. Instead, I played knight to g3 first to support this push. And I think in these positions, not right now, maybe earlier on, black should already have gone for h5, h4, trying to dislodge this knight. but is not able to do it now anymore and goes b5. Here my opponent should have gone knight to d7 and get out of the way of everything that's going on here. But my opponent went for the counter-attack with b5, but it's very slow, right? b5, a5, maybe break, but that costs quite some moves. Well, already in this position, I have a great move, e4, and black needs to act already. Well, you could simply take, but look at this center. I'm threatening here. e5 is a threat. Maybe the queen will go here, threatening checkmate, bringing the bishop into the game as well. Super active position for white. So that's why black didn't take and played the move a5, trying to get some counterplay in. But like I said, little too late, because we just pushed the pawn. And the knight drops back, the only square. And now we see why this bishop is so bad. Because we go f4, great move, pawn storm. The f-pawn, which we already moved once, now is the winner in this position. We will move to f5, and how are you going to protect it? Well, you can't really. The knight goes to f8, and now we push the pawn forward. Look at this. The bishop has to retreat. And at move 17, almost all pieces of black are on the rank where it started. Only this piece is still developed. And let's take a look at white's position. These bishops, look how strong they are. The queen will enter the game. The knight might enter here, and together with the queen, you threaten checkmate. The rook is already on the f-file. Super strong. These pawns, great. How are you gonna stop it as black? You can't. So now we're on the, and the question is, how do we bring up pieces to the king's position? Well, there's multiple moves here. f6 is very concrete according to the computer. Best after g6 and queen to d2. But yeah, we have a connect 4 here, which is super strong. But black might go here, and things are a bit fixed, right? But this is completely winning for me. For example, right, my queen will come in here. You need to defend it. Maybe knight here. Maybe this knight then will come in. Bishop takes. Rook will join the party. These kind of things, right? Completely winning. But I wanted to go for the more flexible approach with queen to g4. Eyeing on the g7 square. The king steps aside to prevent the bishop from coming in. And now I bring in the knight, threatening a very subtle checkmate. Here, knight to g6 would have been a good move for black. Still, white is completely winning because you cannot take, right? Then your queen hangs, and this is a Bote's gambit. But bishop to g5 is a very strong move. Bring your pieces into the attack. And look at black's defenders. Everything is out of the game, except for this knight. Same here. Only the knight is basically defending. g6, blocking the access to the g7 square. But now I bring in the knight. I attack the rook, but I don't want to take it. This rook is worth nothing. This knight is worth so much more. So I'm not here for the rook. I'm here for this square and checkmating my opponent. My opponent tries to bring another rook into the defense, but his own f-pawn is blocking the defense of the h-pawn. And here I go bishop to h6, eyeing on the defender of this pawn. I want to bring my queen here, take this knight, and then give a checkmate here. That's my plan. My opponent doesn't know what to do and goes b5. I could have taken, but why bother? I'm going for the checkmate. Queen to h4. And still look at these pieces. All very passive. And my pieces, the knight is good. The bishop is good. This bishop is amazing. This rook is in the attack. The queen is amazing. What about these pawns? Here my opponent plays knight to d7, getting out of the way, because now I cannot really trade. So how do I threaten checkmate? Well, there's a forced mate in 4 on the board. Do you see the forced mate in 4? 4 moves, 1, 2, 3, 4. Bishop to g7 check. Brilliant move. The king cannot go here, has to take. What's the follow-up? Check. King to f8, only move. But how do we give a checkmate? In 2 moves. Queen to g8 check. And do you see the winning move in this position? Mate in 1 is not too easy to find because it's a retreating move. Sure, you saw it. Knight d5 checkmate. Great position. So if you play against the Nimzo-Indian Defence, go for f3 and build a good center. Maybe g4, h4. That was not an option in this game. Try to go for the e4 break, etc. And align your opening repertoire for different types of openings. The f-pawn is something we do in the King's Indian, is something we do in the Nimzo-Indian, etc. Then it makes it easier for you because you're very comfortable and familiar with a similar type of structures. Good luck in your next games. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you next time. Bye bye.